Hi, I am your realtor Adam Chen. We are back today and we are talking about supply and demand in the real estate market. Supply and demand is such an important topic that is being underestimated by a lot of people because a lot of us don't understand what really is supply and what really is demand. However, I am here to help you break this down and understand your market and your value. In supply and demand, we can look at this simple chart here. This is the most basic, simple chart of explaining supply, which you have the type of quantity and with the matching price in terms of returning with demand. And here we have two lines as you see. When supply and the demand meet, it creates a market equilibrium. What that means is that equal amount of supply will be equal amount of demand. So in the housing real estate market, often we see the matching price matches where the buyer are willing to pay a certain amount of price, while the seller are able to give up a certain amount of price to sell their property in terms of returning, and which created supply and demand. And there's a lot of things we need to understand in this concept, supply and demand. It's not just simply where seller want to sell at a price, buyer want to buy at a price. Because if you think about it, a buyer only want a price that is lower and lower. So sometimes buyer will be sending in price that is super low, that doesn't even match the market. However, here's the key. What the buyer pay or what the seller give doesn't really decide. Even as us as a realtor, we don't decide the price. We could list the price for whatever the seller wants, but if no one wants it, there won't be any demand, right? If we simply list a property, for example, at $1 million, when in reality that property only worth like maybe 500K, the truth is no one is really gonna put in any value or even sending you an offer at all. So you have to know whether or not, if the market decide that the price is around that, what is worth. So simply, which is why we, as a real estate agent, we will do a lot of CMA, which is comparative market analysis, where we compare similar property around your property that you want to sell or you want to value. And we figure out the essential final estimated value prices based off supply and demand. And here's the thing, high demand and low supply will create a seller market. A seller market, which means there will be sending in multiple offers to the seller, because there's so much demand in the market where buyer constantly want to keep sending in offer and offer and offer to secure a deal. And which is why in San Diego housing real estate market, we see such a high demand, low supply. And here's the issue we see. For example, I'm studying at the University of San Diego, UC San Diego. And the issue I see around here is that there's so much demand because the city is so dense. There's so many people living here and doing school, studying, researching, or even just basic people living around, because it's not all student based. However, there's some problem we have here today, which is we have not enough room for student housing, for affordability. So it's really hard to look around the campus, and which created high demand, low supply, because density doesn't match what is needed in the market. And also, meanwhile, people who are living in La Jolla, in this location, you know the price is crazy, it's intense. And which is why a lot of people are not willing to move out, because they're riding the appreciation. However, the house, there is so much empty bedroom. But who want to share their room, right? They always talk about not in my backyard. So anything could happen, but just not in my backyard. And which is why there's so barely any supply, because there's no housing on the market for selling. Which is why you don't see any inventory here, and which is why housing are selling relatively slow. No one's willing to move here because the price is so high. And it's really not worth the value at some point. There is some sweet spot that you will find where the price will match what is really worth. and then afterward you will have low demand and high supply in some cases, which represent a buyer market. And in a buyer market, sometimes home may be on the market for a very long time. And what does that mean, time on the market? When your home hits the market and it's been on there for so long, for example, some home I see around been sitting on MLS on the market for 60 plus days, and no one had really intention to buy it at all. And here's some reason why. Because it's such a low demand and there's so much option you could choose from. Why would I choose your property, right? When there's another property that is similar and even cheaper, maybe just down the street. And which is why you have to understand supply and demand in a market. When is the right time for you to shoot your shot? When is the right time for you to send in an offer? When is your right time to list your property? So it's really important to understand your property value, what is really worth, and how the market looking like. And like I mentioned so many times, don't ever try to time the market, because what essentially happens is that you trying to time the market is going to be end up having surplus or missing out something. There's no way we exactly time the market for a price that we want, but you could time your own timing. If you know when is a good time to sell for on your own because you know you needed cash for something, for different investment, go ahead and make the sales. Go ahead and make the call. And you know, if you need to buy a place to live, for example, right now I know a lot of student housing, they're forced to rent out places because you have to do school around here and you have to commute to the school close enough. So then there's creating not enough supply and high demand, which is price keep on rising and rising and rising, which is why renting is super expensive here around the university. And in terms of understanding supply and demand, you have to know some trade-off. So here I listed some trade-off in San Diego. First thing that came up in my mind is small business. San Diego are built up with 98% small business as a research I've done. It's definitely a lot of opportunity for a lot of startup and a lot of small business around here. What that means to you is that there's definitely a lot of job opportunity, and meanwhile, at the same time, there's create so much demand coming here because job is what really determine the housing price as well. If people don't have money to afford housing, the housing price would not rise the appreciation all the time. And when you buy the houses, you have to think of your exit route. Are you going to essentially build up equity in the house? Or are you going to essentially move out and maybe reinvest in the house or even flip it or sell it? What's your plan? You got to know everything before you take in a single action. Next is transportation. As you know, San Diego does have trolley, the MTS Metro. There's so much city cluster that is around in different locations that transportation is well maintained in San Diego. I'll say transportation in here, San Diego, is very, very convenient, I'll say, because there's location to location. There is bus and trolley. Trolley nearly just go past the whole entire San Diego, unless you go more into or inland, but which is less cases. People like to live near the coast because it's more convenient. Plus you have downtown San Diego where every transportation is reaching there. However, recently there have been more homeless issue. That's what you have to think about. There's all a trade-off, pros and cons. The only reason why people want to come here or people leave here because there's probably something better, a better opportunity cost, which is the best next choices. And when you make your decision for your trade-off, you have to really know why you coming here and why are you leaving here. You have to understand what motivates you to buy or sell. And the weather. You know the weather here is great. There's no doubt. No need to even worry or concern about this. The weather is just great around 24/7, which is one of the top reasons why I attract consumer to come here, buy houses, stay here for a long time, because I personally love the weather here. I don't know about you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Tourism. Tourism is a really tricky one. When you see tourism around a city, that means it is bringing money in. It's bringing income into the city. Because you got people from outside to San Diego coming to visit here. Either vacation, either for maybe short time intern, or whatever their need is. They are coming to the city. They're bringing in extra sorts of income into the city, which we could later spend into developing the city even better. Which why appreciation rises are really great in San Diego. However, with all that coming in mind, affordability is really one of the top reasons why San Diego is really a hard place to find your home. And I'll tell you this. Here's a chart on an average market time in San Diego. And I highlighted out January. Every time when it hit January, as you see on this graph, I'll mark you right here, around right here, January. Every time you see in January, the market moves really slow. Housing on a market average timing is around 40-ish plus day. What does that mean? Because people are moving around during the summer, which you understand supply and demand here. There's probably more demand needed in the summer because everyone's moving around, or maybe more supply over the summer because everyone want to move out to a different city. But once you notice it's January, housing market are moving slow. This does create some opportunity, but you really have to seek it out. You have to keep paying attention to the market and knowing what is happening next. And which why I keep telling y'all, supply and demand. As long as you know this simple basic concept, you know what's the trade-off is. And you would know when it's more affordable, because right now when the market is hot, everyone is buying, everyone is moving, housing are going quick, price could really reflect fast, and then you have multiple offers sending in, which is making even more competitive, which why I know some people like to target a specific time to buy. And this is why you need to know your motivation. When do you need to come here for whatever reason, right? And back to affordability. Like I said, there is so much demand around here, but it's just not enough supply. The supply is so slow, even especially over pandemic, the COVID. A lot of housing inventory actually dropped because we did not develop any new property, and then there's so many old property with just maybe one owner or few people living in it with a lot of empty room, which why we are missing a lot of middle housing in San Diego too. And honestly, in the future, I'll talk about in the next video, we'll be really looking into the missing middle, which is triplex, duplex, or maybe even apartment. Those are all so much opportunity and gem rather than just single family home. Everyone at the end of the day, I know you guys want to live in a single family, and that's a perfect home starter. However, you have to know supply and demand in the market and what is needed at the moment. Because right now, single family home is averaging around $1.1 million in San Diego County. So let me know what you guys think of this video. Let me know if you guys learned something new about supply and demand, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.